We rolled into hospital just as the sun was waking up. The train slowed, the mist lifted, and so did our hunger. Idlis at Naivedyam set the mood, and with some effort, we found our ride on a Tavera. Not royal, but yeah, reliable. As we cruised past the Kamlapur lake, our homestay waited ahead. The journey to Hampi had quietly begun.
ये यहाँ का गाइड है ना 2,500-3,000 लेता है। अच्छा। तुम्हारे तक शाम तक नहीं रहता है।
एक एक जगह के लिए लेता है वो?
नहीं पूरा दिखलाने के लिए। हाँ। वो मेन प्लेस दिखला के चल जाता है वो। 2 घंटे में 3 घंटे में। इसलिए मैं ये बोल देता हूँ हर प्लेस पे गाड़ी जाएगा देख लेगा ना, स्ट्रीट रहता है, स्ट्रीट फोटो मार लेगा ना। तुम आराम से देखना बोल तो आराम से देख सकते हैं शाम तक।
ठीक है। वहाँ लिख के रहता है ना?
हाँ, लिख के रहता है पूरा, वो फोटो मारने का पढ़ने का।
We had to cross a few canals and villages to reach at our stay. Tranquil mango meadows. Yes, tranquil was the right word. The kind of place where the silence itself feels like curated. The walls were painted by hand and not by professionals but by memories. Neem twigs for toothbrushes gave our morning routine a caveman twist, so as cracking raw cashews.
इधर से स्टार्ट करेंगे, इधर आके ये 2 पिलर है, ये मिलता है, ये तुला भारा बोलते हैं, किंग बैलेंस। ये 2 भी एक ही जगह आता है। हम पूरा साइड सीन में आ जाएंगे पूरा ऐसा है कि क्वींस बाग, नेक्स्ट क्वींस बाग, ये सब आ जाएगा लास्ट में मंदिर।
ठीक है, ये सब होने के बाद विरूपाक्ष आएंगे
लास्ट में।
खाने के लिए कहाँ रुकेंगे?
ये विठला देख लेके तुम्हारे को इधर 1 आवर लगता है, ये क्योंकि उधर से बैटरी गाड़ी में जाना पड़ता है।
तो उसके बाद ही खाना खाएंगे?
देख के आके फिर 7 किलोमीटर आना पड़ता है, फिर कमलापुरम आके टाइम हो गया तो खाना खा के जाएंगे।
ठीक है,
नहीं बोले तो
बाय।
Post breakfast, we set off towards the crown jewel of Hampi, the Vijaya Vittala Temple. History in sandstone. The heat was already turning up, so reading signboards wasn't an option. We found a guide, part historian, part stand-up comic, hopped onto an electric buggy winding down a path shaded by giant trees and centuries-old secrets.
So first the temple name is the Vijaya Vittala Temple. Dedication for Krishna. Still are currently no idols worship, no santas and sankadrams inside. So no Bhagwan, no puja. So because of war, Battle of Talikota war.
At the temple's threshold, the story began. Carvings at the entrance floor showed families performing Shashtanga Namaskaras, prostrating to the divine. The rock chariot, not carved but constructed in layers, painted with organic colors, regal even in ruin. The musical pillars stood silent now, but you could still hear the echoes if you closed your eyes. Bangles carved from the granite circled stones maidens like frozen festivals. The deeper we went, the more unreal it felt, like the time had decided to take a nap here and we had just stumbled into its dreams. Built in the 15th century under the reign of Devaraya II, Vijaya Vittala Temple was more than just a shrine. It was an architectural marvel dedicated to Lord Vitella, a form of Vishnu. It stands as a zenith of Vijayanagara art. The temple complex was once a vibrant center of religious and cultural life where music, dance and devotion blended seamlessly. The chariot we admired isn't just iconic, it featured on India's 50 rupees note. Its wheels were once believed to rotate, though now fixed to preserve its form, and those musical pillars, each one tuned to a specific note capable of producing a full scale of Indian classical music. As our guide spoke, you could almost hear echoes of temple drums, Sanskrit chants, and the rhythmic footfalls of dancers long gone. Every inch of this place, from the ornate carvings to the incomplete halls, tells a story of ambition, divinity, and unshakable devotion. We weren't just walking through the ruins, we were walking through the living memory of a civilization that refused to be forgotten. A soft drink stall gave us a carbonated reset, the kind of cold fizz that wakes up the senses in the Hampi sun. With refreshed spirits, we hopped onto the buggy and rumbled along the dusty tracks. We passed through what was once a bustling bazaar centuries ago. This very stretch saw the clatter of hooves, gold changing hands, and traders from across the seas shouting in strange tongues. The grand markets of the Vijayanagara Empire weren't just places of commerce, they were where the world met Hampi. Today, only the scattered stones remain. The sun glints off broken platforms and the silence is thicker than you expect. No shouting vendors, no galloping horses, just quiet air moving through the mystery. The lunch was international by name, average by taste. Let's not name names. The rabbits we met later were more excited about their food. Yes, rabbits, actual pets. We fed them, we filmed them, we tried naming them. One of them ignored us completely, probably the wisest. Several cows managed to endanger themselves and us along the path as we reached Queen's Path, a royal retreat with ancient plumbing, so clever it looked like an art. Built in the 15th century of Vijayanagara Queens, this was no ordinary path. Arched corridors framed a sunken pool where perfumed water once filled the air with fragrance. Inlets and drains were hidden in a design. Elegance with engineering. From the outside, it looked so simple. Step in and you feel the grace of a forgotten world. And then came the Royal Enclosure, path flanked by the legendary 5,000 kilogram stone door. The land here wasn't just built, it was designed to think. Water canals ran through it like veins, directing flow with brilliant precision. Not far from them, the royal state tank stood like sacred geometry etched in stone. We saw granite slabs, once dining plates for royal guards and warriors, and amongst these grand structures were delicate carvings, women celebrated in grace, honored in strength, reminders that power here wasn't one-sided, it was shared with dignity and devotion. The secret chamber awaited. We moved through a narrow, dark tunnel, and for a moment we weren't tourists. We were time travelers. Whispers echoed, footsteps lingered. Maybe it wasn't haunted, but it wasn't empty either. The chamber lies beneath what was once the king's private audience hall in the Royal Enclosure. These passageways weren't just architectural quirks, they were functional veins of power. Historians believe that these secret corridors connected important parts of the palace complex, allowing royal family members and messengers to move swiftly and unseen. It's said that intelligence briefings, war strategies, and confidential meetings happened right here beneath the surface. The acoustic inside these tunnels are eerie, almost as if the very stones are trained to guard secrets. Some even speculate that during invasions, these routes served as escape paths. As we stood in dim silence, the damp walls seems to breathe the memory. And though the hall above is now open to skies, down there, inside this ancient artery, the kingdom still pulses, not loud, not bright, but alive and watching. Outside, Dasara Dibba, an elevated platform that once hosted royal ceremonies, 750 acres of open glory, and for once we were speechless. Next, we reached the Queen's Palace, or what little remains of it. The ruins stood open to the sun, their foundations still whispering tales of power and grace. There was no ceiling left, but somehow the air above still feels like it belonged to royalty. Just a walk away stood the elephant stables, 11 domed chambers perfectly symmetrical, each one housing a royal elephant. These were no ordinary shelters. With arches inspired by Indo-Islamic design, the stables blended strength with symmetry. You could almost feel the weight of elephants' presence in silence, their calm majesty. Padavi Linga half submerged in water, besides Narasimha, a deity in stone. We then moved towards the last destination for today, the Virupaki Temple. The temple rose in front of us not as a relic, but as a living temple. Bells rang, devotees prayed. Hampi may have faded in power, but its soul still pulsed here. The Tungabhadra river flowed like a silver serpent, wrapping the past and the present in its gentle waves. We returned to our homestay and started on foot for a slow stroll through the plantations. The path was flanked by mango groves swaying gently in breeze. At some point we found a makeshift swing tied to a tree. It wasn't about reaching high, just letting go, like kids, carefree, mid-journey. Our path traced the edge of the farmlands, following an old fence that seemed to stretch forever. Eventually the fence ended at a small stream, quietly threading its way through the field. The sun had dropped low by then, casting long golden shadows on earth. Dragonflies hovered, the breeze cooled, and it was kind of that evening, the kind where no one says let's go back, but the silence makes you realize it's time. And just when we stood there, the sun tapped us gently on the shoulder and whispered, enough for today.
So in this sketchy forest, we are trying to find some food here. Quite hungry. It's been 5 days now. We are stuck here. Don't know if we'll get something. The flight which was searching for us, and they finally got us and started with it. So this is a 14-acre land in which they have grown all these mango trees. There are, I think, a minimum of 50 odd varieties of mangoes that they have planted here. It's quite amazing.
You're recording him.
As the night fell, we didn't retire, we regrouped. Karaoke tracks gave us a stage, the bonfire gave us a light, and damsharas gave us a laughter that we echoed through the countryside. One team clearly won, but in all made us really admire skills that we possess. And so ended the day one, not with silence, but with a lot of memories. A quick morning climb up the rocks behind our homestay, just to wake up the legs. We set our trusted Tavera to Mango Tree restaurant. What better way to start a day in Hampi than the crisp paratas and hot sandwiches? Simple food, full stomach. We crossed the old bridge over the Tungabhadra, one of the only links that connects this side of Hampi to Anegundi. On the other side was Vali Caves. On our way up, we stopped at a small Pushkarni temple, modest but peaceful. Along the route were paintings all over, real stories from Ramayana, like the fight between Vali and Sugriva and Lord Rama's role in settling it. These weren't just decorative, these were lessons in stone from a time when the kings walked barefoot and Dharma decided who lived and who ruled. Inside Vali Cave, it was cool, damp, and unusually quiet. The kind of quiet that feels intentional. The air carried a faint, earthy scent, like the rock themselves had been soaked in stories. It wasn't a grand structure, but it didn't need to be. The energy inside the cave spoke louder than any carvings or pillars ever could. Legend says this is where Vali, the most powerful Vanara king from the Ramayana, once meditated. This very idea that such a warrior chose silence and stillness here gave the place a strange, commanding calm. Just outside, we came across a small temple with 12 Jyotirlingas, each one representing one of the zodiac signs, a mix of astrology and devotion, carved simply with clarity. It reminded us how science, belief, and tradition have always walked hand in hand in our culture. The driver waited for us below, but I chose to walk down the rocky path instead. It wasn't easy, but every step gave me a new angle of those massive boulders standing like old sentinels. Some leaning on pebbles, some stacked like forgotten toys. The landscape here isn't just ancient, it's alive.
Rain, right? Should certainly fall.
Next, we reached the Shabri Cave and the serene waters of Pampa Sarovar. They say Shabri, in her devotion, tasted berries before offering them to Lord Rama, and he accepted them with love. The moment of bhakti turned this small corner of Hampi into a sacred chapter in Ramayana. No grand structures, only stillness and kind of grace you don't find in guidebooks. Next, we headed towards Anjanadri Hill, believed to be the birthplace of Lord Hanuman, or as we know him here, Anjaneya. The name comes from his mother, Anjana Devi, who is said to have meditated on this very hill, received the blessing of Vayu, the wind god. From that divine union, Hanuman was born, a symbol of devotion, strength, and wisdom. The base of this hill was alive, full of people, and we joined the crowd, slipping off our shoes for the 542-step climb. As we climbed, everything slowly changed. The sounds faded, and our steps found a quiet rhythm. These rocks weren't just rocks, they witnessed kings, sages, and generations of footsteps in the search of blessings. Each step felt like a chapter, the boulders around us standing like guardians. Half the way up, the Tungabhadra flowed like a ribbon through the time. Around us, the hills of Hampi told their own stories. We stood there, not tired, just aware. This wasn't just a view, wasn't just a temple. It was a perspective for one. At the summit stood the Anjaneya temple, humble yet grounded in power. Saffron flags fluttered wildly, catching the wind like whispers of blessings. The idol inside was simple, almost unassuming, but Hanuman doesn't need grandeur. His strength has always been in stillness, in devotion, in silence that roars. As we began our descent from Anjanadri, the temple slowly grew smaller behind us, its saffron flag still fluttering in the wind, as if waving goodbye. The steps came faster now, our bodies moving quicker than our thoughts. We captured it all in a hyperlapse, but in our hearts, each step still echoed with the silence of prayers and the stories whispered by the rocks. The boulders and the staircases, the monkeys sleeping across the railings, the scent of the temple incense still faint in the air. They passed us by in flashes. But even in that rush, we noticed the little things: a toddler being carried, an old man chanting softly, a young couple pausing every few steps to admire the view. Life was moving around us, but for us, time had stretched. We were still somewhere up there, in that calmness, in that power that we felt up there. Descending felt quite different. Climbing was an effort of will. Coming down, it was an exhale, a release. It's not an end. The wind had changed. Now it carried hints of roasted peanuts, petrol and dust and sense of every day creeping back on our senses. The final stretch of stairs gave us away to even uneven ground. With each step, the sacredness of the summit gave away to the casual chaos of the base. Below, the crowd swelled again, people chatting, vendors calling out, a cow blocking the exit as if asking the last question that it had. Did you take something with you from up there? Yes, indeed, we had. Anjanadri had left its imprint, not just on our souls, but on our sense of stillness. It didn't give us a view. It offered a shift, a little clarity, a little calm, the kind that hums in your head for hours after, like an old tune you don't want to forget. And maybe that's what blessings sound like, isn't it? We stopped for lunch by a little stream. The rain had just passed. The earth smelled fresh. The food was far from traditional. Pita bread, enchiladas and hummus, and somehow it all worked. Hampi has had its effect. It allows the old and new to sit comfortably at the same table. Our last stop was a gentle stream, calm, quiet and reflective. Locals crossed it in theppa boats, simple round coracles that glided like leaves on water. Trip didn't end with fanfare, it ended with stillness, the kind that lets a place speak, and Hampi, it whispered goodbye.